I'm on a quest to read every Star Wars novel ever written, because Star Trek is just a little bit too nerdy for me. Today, we're taking a look at X-Wing, Rogue Squadron by Michael Stackpole. This is a Legends novel set about a year after Return of the Jedi, and it focuses on the legendary Rogue Squadron, which has just been recreated under the command of Wedge Antilles in the hopes of creating an elite fighter wing for the New Republic military. Full disclosure, I actually just finished reading Wedge's Gamble, the second X-Wing book, just a few days ago. Rogue Squadron I read quite a bit earlier, but it feels weird talking about the second book without having talked about the first, so we gotta get through this one first. And this one is... okay. It's gonna be hard not to let a review of Wedge's Gamble sneak its way into this, because I liked it a lot more than the first book, and my recommendation for Rogue Squadron essentially boils down to read this so that you can read the following books. I'm a big advocate in TV for skipping the first underwhelming season of a show and jumping right into season 2. To this day, I've never seen season 1 of 30 Rock all the way through. I don't know that that would necessarily work with a book. There's certainly events in Rogue Squadron that are important to the later books, but I don't not recommend it. But if you do choose to read Rogue Squadron, it's definitely got its charms. I think a part of the reason it didn't land for me is that it's very technical. It focuses a lot on the dogfighting, and it feels like a proper, in-depth account of X-Wing combat, down to the minute details of the starship's functions. If that's your cup of tea, then this is exactly the book for you. Unfortunately, it's not mine. I think if you regularly play flight simulators, or really any other kind of simulator, give this a shot. You'll probably like it. The plot itself isn't bad, but it is fairly straightforward. Rogue Squadron goes on missions, fights some bad guys, flies some X-Wings. Typical adventure affair. And past those things, the main element left is the characters. And the main character of Rogue Squadron is an exceptional pilot named Corran Horn, who... I wouldn't even say I dislike Corran, but he's such a mess. He's your classic, arrogant, hot-headed pilot who's good but knows he's good. Typical Maverick from Top Gun type stuff. The only difference is that Corran doesn't have Tom Cruise playing him to make him likable. The best example is that there's a bit of a love triangle between Corran and two of the women that he interacts with over the course of the book, and instead of thinking of them like a normal human being reflecting on things he likes, he constantly is measuring the degree to which he lusts after each of them. That's not my word choice, that's his word choice. He analyzes his own lusts towards them. He talks about lust a lot. It's like, dude, just talk like a person. Tell her she's pretty, man. God. More like Corran Horny. No, cut that. No, actually, you know what? Don't cut that. Leave that in. Ugh. Anyways, back to this guy. I think another big reason I like the second book more is that it widens out into much more of an ensemble piece. This one is pretty squarely focused on Corran, and he can be a lot. But in the second book, you spread out a bit more and start spending time with Wedge Antilles, or Gavin Darklighter, cousin of everyone's favorite character who's technically in A New Hope, Biggs Darklighter. Those characters are in this too, there is a whole squadron, but they definitely get more presence in the narrative in the second and third books, and it helps to water down the Corran effect a little bit. All that being said, I would say that I enjoy Corran, partially because of what a little weirdo he is, and if you do want to read Rogue Squadron, it definitely sets up things that make the next books feel more valuable for having read it. I give it a big, pleasant 5 out of 10.